Good. Okay, guys. So number one, we want to look for the name and the symbol for the atom that has 28 protons and 34 neutrons. So best thing to do is figure out what element it is. So we're gonna look at the protons and go to the periodic table. And what is the element that has 28 protons? I heard it. Yeah, nickel. Got nickel right there, like the coin, right? The 5-cent coin. We got nickel, and it's gonna be Ni. So we're gonna write for the name. We're gonna write nickel, and then the symbol is Ni. And then since it's an isotope, we need to write down the mass number. Okay. For the mass number, just remember that it's the protons plus the neutrons. So all we got to do is 28 plus 34, and that should give us 62. Okay. So for the name, you just write nickel dash 62. And then for the symbol, you just put the mass number, the 62, on the top left. Okay. So I know it's been a long weekend, but basically for the name, you just write the name, dash the mass number, and then the symbol, you write the symbol, and you put the mass number on the top left. Yeah.
You have to write nickels.
So on the test, it'll specify. So you just need to do the one that it asks you for. Yeah, it could be either or both. Yeah, good question. All right. Number 2 is where we go in reverse. So this time it gives us the name, and then it wants us to find the protons and neutrons. So we have calcium 42. So let's go to the periodic table and look for calcium. Calcium is on the far left. So how many protons does calcium have? Yeah, 20. It's just a number on the top. So calcium has 20 protons. So for the protons, we just write that it has 20 protons because it is calcium. Now this number back here, we said it's the protons plus the neutrons. So if we know the protons, we can just subtract 20, and that'll give us the number of neutrons. So it's going to be 22 neutrons. And an easy way for you guys to check your work is just add them again. And if you add them, it should end up the same number right here. So 20 plus 22 is 42. Okay. Yeah, so for the symbol, we saw that calcium is Ca. And then you just take the mass number right here, 42, and just put it on the top left. Okay. That's pretty much it. That's review from last time. And you will need to know it for today. So just make sure you got that jotted down for your reference. But do you guys have any questions about isotope stuff? Hopefully not too bad. Because we're going to be adding one more thing on top of this today. So you're going to need to know this and then just add one more thing on top. Okay. Alrighty, so let's move on. So before we go on to the new topic, let's just kind of review really quick what we've learned so far in this class. So we talked about the atom. You guys don't need to write this down. You guys should have this in your notes already, but we talked about how an atom is made out of protons, neutrons, and electrons, right? So we talked about protons last week and neutrons last week as well. So we're finally going to be moving on to the electron. Okay, so how the electrons affect the atom. I said in the previous weeks that you're going to assume that these are the same, right? But today it's going to be different. So protons and electrons are no longer the same number. Okay, so I need you guys to write this down right here. The number of electrons is going to determine the atom's charge. Okay, make sure you guys write that down. The number of electrons affects the atom's charge. Another way to think about that is the electrical energy. So what kind of electrical energy does it have? So you will have to do some math today too, but it's going to be like single digit, at most double digit addition and subtraction. So it's not too bad. It's just kind of keeping everything in order. That will be the difficult part, but the math itself isn't too bad. So just make sure you guys have a calculator. Phone calculator is fine. Just have easy reference to them or access to that. So I'll give you guys maybe 30 more seconds to copy that down. Okay, so let's talk about why the number of electrons affects the charge. So we talked about before how protons have a positive charge, right? Protons are positive and electrons are negative. Ooh. Guess we all got the same one. Anyway, okay, so protons are positive, electrons are negative, right? And so last week we said that they're equal to each other. So if we have the same number of positive and negative, it balances each other out, right? That's what we meant by neutral. So this is what we did last time, so you guys don't need to copy this down. Neutral atoms are atoms with no electrical charge. It's when they have the same number of protons and electrons. Okay, however, we said that we're going to change that today. And so this is what you're going to want to write down. Ions are atoms with an electrical charge. And this part you're going to want to write down for your assignment today. Okay, so ions are electrons with an electrical charge. Last week we said we had the same number of protons and electrons, but now it's going to be unequal. So we're going to have a different number of protons and electrons. And that's kind of the math that we'll have to do. Right, so this week we're going to be working with atoms that have a different number of protons and electrons. So I know it's a lot of writing right now. We just have one more thing to go over, and then we're going to jump right into the practice problems that'll be on your assignment. Okay, so we're almost done. Okay, so like we said, protons are positive and electrons are negative, right? So if there are more protons than electrons, that means the entire atom is gonna become positive. So that's the next, I guess, definition that we have. The next definition are cations. Cations are ions that have a positive charge. And for this class, if you draw a plus sign inside a circle, we'll automatically assume that it means positive. So cations are ions with a positive charge. That means you have more protons than electrons. Okay, so for example, if you see an element that looks like this, so this is one example, Ca2 plus, this number on the top right, this is going to be the charge. If you ever see a positive number on the top right, it means there are more protons than electrons, okay? So just keep that in mind. Yes.
Are you right?
You can kind of take down the parts that you need. So if you just need cations or more protons and electrons, just write that. You don't need to copy down everything word for word. Yeah. Again, this is like your notes for your studying and your assignment. So you guys can paraphrase things, take just the important parts. But yeah, and I record all these, so they're up there on Canvas for you if you miss out on something. Okay. So that's cations. Cations are ions that have a positive charge, so a plus charge. And then it's when you have more protons than electrons. So that'll be helpful in your assignment today. I'll show you why in just a bit, but just keep that in mind. Positive means there are more protons. And then the opposite are anions. Anions are the opposite. It's atoms that have a negative charge, and just like the plus sign for this class, if you put a minus sign inside a circle, automatically know that means negative. And you can kind of assume what's going to happen. You have more electrons than you have protons. Okay, so a good example might be this right here, fluorine with a minus charge. Again, the top right is the charge. So if you ever see a minus sign on the top right, it means that you have a negative ion, an anion. Okay, so you will need to memorize these terms. So easy way to think about it. Do you like cats? cats are positive, right? Cats are good. And then Anne is the name of the girl that broke my heart for the first time in kindergarten. So Anne is bad.
That's true.
No. But now you won't forget it. Okay, so cats are good, and then that Anne girl is bad. Well, you can memorize it however you want then, Drake. Stradivarius, stop laughing at my broken heart, okay? Anne hurt me in ways you can't imagine. Nah, dude, I couldn't. All I want to talk about were my Pokemon cards. Anne wasn't interested.
Did you dunk at that time?
No,
That's why you're.
it is. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to practice problems, but you guys got any questions? All right, so let's do some practice problems. I'll do one with you guys, and I'll have you guys try two on your own, and then after that, we'll move on to the assignment. Okay, so we are going to be finding out the charge on a magnesium atom with 10 electrons, and then you got to find out is it cation, anion, and write the symbol. So I'll walk this one with you, and then just make sure you guys are following along, and let me know if you have any questions. So first thing you want to do is you want to figure out the charge, and the formula for charge is right here, so you might want to jot that down on your notes. But the way that you calculate charge is you just need to do protons minus electrons. Okay, the way that you calculate charge is protons minus electrons. Make sure you put protons first in the calculator and then do minus electrons, because you can get a positive or negative number, and that's important. Okay, so it tells us that we have 10 electrons, right? So we already have this part right here. We have 10 electrons. So all we need to do is figure out the number of protons. And if we find out protons, we can calculate the charge, right? So let's go to the periodic table. We're looking for Mg. So if you guys take a look at Mg on the periodic table, how many protons does Mg have? Yeah, 12. Again, same thing that we've been doing for a while now, just a number on top, so 12. So for the formula, we just need to do 12 minus 10. So the charge is going to be 2. Okay, but specifically, it's going to be positive 2. Okay, so for charge, positive and negative matters. So just make sure you guys keep that in mind. Okay. Okay, so the answer to the first problem is right here. The charge is positive 2. So if the charge is positive 2, is it a cation or is it an anion?
Cat.
Yeah, cation. Remember, cats are good. So this is a cation. Okay. And then let's write the symbol. So the way that we write the symbol is we just take the Mg. So let's write Mg. And which side should we put the charge? The left side or the right side? The right side. So the right side is where we write the charge, but chemistry is kind of weird. Instead of doing positive 2, chemists switch it. Okay, so for the charge, we write 2 plus. Okay, kind of interesting. I actually don't know why they do that, but that's the way they write it. So just make sure you write it in reverse. So 2 plus. Okay, and if it was 2 minus 2, then you would write 2 minus. Okay, just always put the number first. Okay. And that's pretty much it. That's the extent of what we learned today. And then after this, we're just going to combine this with the isotope. So you would just put the isotope on the top left.
It's a both. The iPhone 5 Plus.
Yeah, kind of like that. Like that. All right, you guys ready to try some on your own? Okay, so for the next couple problems, you're going to need to know the isotope stuff. So make sure you guys have your notes handy, because we're going to be combining the two of them. But let's move on. So on your assignment today, you're going to get tables that look like this. Again, you don't need to copy down the table. You can just write the answers kind of in order, right? Write the symbol, then the protons, neutrons, electrons. Just write them down, and that's it. Okay, so I'm going to put the formulas up here for you guys, just so that you guys have them handy. So the first formula that you'll need is the mass number is the protons plus the neutrons. And then the second formula, the one that we learned today, is going to be the charge is equal to the protons minus the electrons. Okay. And I'm gonna change one thing, change it to that. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys get started. Take about 3-4 minutes to work on this with the people next to you. One thing I do want to mention is if you ever see a charge that only has a plus sign, if it's only a plus sign, that means it's +1. If you only see a minus sign, it means it's -1. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And I'll give you guys about 4 or 5 minutes to work on this. Try it out, see if you guys can get the same answers, and we'll go over it in a bit, and I'll get you guys started on your assignment, okay? For assignment. Okay, so let's start with number 2. We have to write the complete symbol, so that means we need the mass number, we need the symbol, and we need the charge. So 3 things that we need. So let's start with the symbol, just because that's the easiest. We have to look at the protons. So we look for 17 protons. So if we look here on the periodic table, the element that has 17 protons is chlorine, or Cl. So we'll write Cl. Okay, and we determine that by the number of protons. Okay, next thing we need to do, let's do the mass number first. It doesn't really matter what order you did it in, but I like to go left to right. So mass number is protons plus neutrons. So protons plus neutrons, that's going to give us a mass number of 17 plus 20, which is going to be 37. So we just need to put 37 on the top left. Thank you. All right, and then the last thing that we need to do is we need to figure out the charge. Now the charge is protons minus electrons. So we're just going to get the protons and the electrons and just subtract it. So 17 minus 18 is going to be -1. So we have a charge of -1. So since it's -1, we just need to put a minus sign on the top right. Okay. Now, if you wrote 1 minus, depending on which TA is grading it, you might not get it marked wrong, but just this is kind of the normal way to do it. So I encourage you guys just to put the plus or minus sign. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? I graded the exams and the labs. No, I just feel like I should do the harder ones to give you guys partial credit. They are. That's why I give you partial credit. Okay, let's do this last one and then we'll be all done. So we got W. So if we look at W on the periodic table, we're gonna find that it is tungsten. Okay, and how many protons does tungsten have? Yeah, 74. Good. It's just a number on the top. So we can fill that in really easy. So the number of protons is going to be 74. And it's because when you look for the box with tungsten in it, it has a 74 on the top. Okay, pretty simple. All right, let's go to the neutrons. The neutrons, we got to use the mass number right here. What's the mass number of this atom right here? Yeah, 141. So we got 141. And if we want to find the neutrons, we just need to subtract the protons. So you can just pull out your calculator to do that. Super simple calculation. 141 minus 74 is going to give you 67. So this is going to be 67 neutrons. And then last but not least, to find the electrons, we see that the charge is +1. So before we do any math or anything like that, are we going to have more protons or more electrons? Yeah, we're going to have more protons. So just make sure that when you're filling out these tables, it's a good way to check your answer. If it's positive, you have to have more protons. So you can't have anything more than 74. Okay, so if it's +1, it means you have 1 more proton. So that means you'll have 73 electrons. So easy way to do that. Or you could have just done some calculations and that would have been fine. 74 minus 1. All right, but that's pretty much it for today. Your assignment will have, I guess, kind of a bigger table version of this, and you'll just be doing the same thing, finding the symbol, protons, neutrons, electrons, and finding the charge and things like that. Okay. Any questions? All right. I'll give you guys the rest of the class period to work on the assignment. I have the answer key if you guys want to check the answer key at any point. If you guys need any help, just let me know. And again, I have recorded this and this will be posted on Canvas in a few minutes. All right. So you guys can grab a Chromebook, get started on your assignment, and let me know if you guys got any questions.